Okay, good morning. Here we are with our weekly hypnosis talks with me, Jessaiah, and the great Pete. And today we are going to talk about how to know where you are on your growth journey. And so Pete is going to take us through the various steps as he knows it. So take it away, Pete.
Yeah. So this is one I think is crucial, and I think a lot of us overlook it, right? It's one where I can say for myself, I always want to jump to the end, right? I don't want to go through the middle. I want to jump to the end. But we have to be honest to really determine where we are on the scale I'm going to go over, because it allows us to do the right steps for us or our clients to be successful. And that is our ultimate goal in the end. Everything that I have today comes from a professor from the University of Rhode Island, where he really talks about how these stages for change really are so important, right? Because as a practitioner, we have to learn where our clients are so we can start them at the right part of the journey. You know, if we're doing this work on ourselves, we have to know where we are so we don't get so frustrated that we give up. You know, and so there's 5 stages that he came up with. The first one is the pre-contemplation stage, and this is ultimately saying you're not ready to change. Um, this is one I would say, as a hypnotist, we see it with like smokers, right? Where they go, man, Pete, I love smoking, but my wife, oh my goodness, she's been blah, 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 really wanting me to quit, but I don't want to, right? They're resistant, they're unmotivated, they don't even want the help, right? We have to be aware of those, moments, um, because maybe we don't know better, right? And all it takes is someone to be like, hey, did you think about this? And they go, well, no, I didn't think about it. That's actually huge for me. It could be that they don't believe in themselves, right? That they can make the change, or they just don't want to change, right? If there's in the I don't want to change, there's really nothing we can do, right? You have to wait. If it's, well, they're missing a key piece of information, well, it's our job to help them discover that before we even think about change. Yeah. If they lack in confidence, well, before we can create any change, we have to build their confidence. Because if they're not confident or if they're not motivated, it just creates this frustration and this struggle that leaves both the practitioner and the client feeling frustrated and not good enough. You know, and so we really have to look at that part before we even think about moving on, because usually in this part, the risk and the reward aren't balanced. You know, a lot of people go, yeah, the reward to change is not worth it. Right? All the stuff I'm getting, they're really unbalanced. And so the next stage is the contemplation stage, right? This is where people are on the fence. Actually, this might be a good time to, or I'll share my screen for this one. Because this is like a really good graph to understand the process as well. So if we share that. So if we look at it, the pre-contemplation phase is right here, right? The pros of making the change are very low, right? And the ability to stay where they are is really high. And so from there, once we can get them to the contemplation phase, it's pretty in the middle, right? We call it being on the fence. It could go one way or the other. If we think about it in this moment, the contemplation phase is when we get the thoughts, right? We get those beginning thoughts of like, oh man, if I make this change, my life would be better, but, right? We get that, but, the ifs and the, right? but they're on the fence. You can easily push in either direction, right? So this is really, they're getting ready to make the change. They know the pros and cons, right, of either behavior. They tend to, though, look at them equally. Not one is stronger than the other. And so it's our job to push them over one side. If they're not seeing a practitioner, and this is the moment where I think having that mentor, that guide, that practitioner makes all the difference, right? Because sometimes you need that push. Otherwise, we get stuck in that procrastination. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow, right? If I think of people, and let's say, they're going to go on that diet, on that weight loss journey, they go, I'll start on Monday. I know it'll be good for me, right? But I'll start on Monday. Some people, man, I have seen it where they've been in this stage for years, and finally they go, I can't take this anymore, and they move on to the next stage. But this right here, for us as practitioners and for clients, really, this is the beginning of those thoughts coming into our conscious mind, but not quite into our unconscious mind, right? There's no emotional attachment really to moving on in the pros and letting go of the cons. So from there, though, once we get that push and we go, yeah, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to make this change. We move on to the preparation phase, right? This is where we're really getting ready. This is where we start to take action for our new result, and the old way of living starts to fade. The one thing I learned about in preparation and in getting ready is really knowing that this part is going to be the longest part, right? They did a study, and it was new neural pathways grow 1 millimeter a day when it's focused on something new and better, or different. I shouldn't say better, but different. That's not a long distance, right? Especially when we have our old habits probably so solidified in there that it takes that little bit extra effort. The good news is, once we enter the preparation phase, though, it's beginning to seep into our unconscious mind, right? We're getting emotionally involved in what we really want, and I find once we get the thoughts and emotionally involved, we start doing things naturally, right? It's not something where we're just free, right? We don't have to think about it, but it's getting there, and it gets stronger and stronger. The next part where it gets really good is our actions, right? Our actions is our body getting involved into it. So this is one where, if you think of, I say, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Brendan Bouchard, right? All these people, this is what they're talking about, right? You get your thoughts, you get your emotions, and you get your body into it, right? You're taking the action consistently, even when, with everything, we don't have perfect days. We have bad days, we have good days, but we're taking that consistent action to move forward, to grow, right? Our motivation to keep going is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and we are able to push through, right? This is for being a hypnotist, a coach, a practitioner, is a great stage, because this is the most impactful stage, right? This is the stage where we get to help people stay on track, right? We talk about when people go, you need accountability. This is when accountability really matters, because this is where their confidence is getting higher. They believe in themselves more. But it's one when we have that bad day, because they do happen, we need that person to be like, hey, one bad day, we'll get through this, right? Once they pass that, though, that's when they get into the final stage of maintenance, right? This is when it's really just part of their lifestyle, right? This is when I'd say that the relapse is almost inevitable, or not inevitable, almost possible. It's not, the relapse is almost not possible. There we go. Right? Because they have so much confidence, because they've carried that motivation, right? It doesn't mean they're not free of that risk, but because of that confidence that they have grown into, because of that motivation is grown into, they're more likely to be able to handle those bad days on their own, right? This is one where we all strive to be in everything we do, but understand this, like, it looks like a short graph. This could be 6 months. This could be a year, it could be a week. It's different for everyone and every goal. So that is the importance of this graph here, to really understand the different stages of, if we're not ready for change, we can't try and maintain it, right? We just have to get to the idea where they're equal, where it's being equal to change or not changing. Then we can start being ready and doing those small things, and then really building up our confidence into the progress. Okay. Most of us, and I think they did a study, and it was about 80% of us spend most of our time here in the pre-contemplation phase, because a lot of us aren't aware that we can make the changes, right? It's really I remember that it's like a 4-ladder thing where it's unconsciously incompetent, consciously incompetent, consciously competent, unconsciously competent. A lot of us don't know, right? We never really get taught that we can be up here, right? And so for the majority of people, about 80%, this is where they sit, not because they want to, they just don't know any better. And they maybe don't even believe in themselves, right? So from there, there's a great image that they have that we get to share and really understand how it relates to our confidence and our motivation. Because this is one where it's really those two things that make the difference. So it's one where, if we look at the scale of 0 to 10, and this is one where, if we're doing it on our own or if we're a practitioner, this is a good scale to have, right? I remember when I first got started, all people ever cared about was the motivation, right? All people were like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to make this change? An 8, perfect, right? This made a big difference for me, because I could be a 9 and motivated, but I really don't believe I can do it. It doesn't matter how much motivation I have. I'm not ready to make that next stage, that next leap. And so I have to take time to find that confidence. And it's not necessarily the confidence that I can maintain it, right? We start with just trying to get the confidence that they can be on the fence, that their life can be either or, And if we look at, like, the chart they have is just a 3 and a 3. You don't have to be super motivated, and you don't have to be super confident. You just have to have enough of each to really be on that fence, to work towards taking that action, right? Really looking at the benefits, really getting those thoughts into your mind and into your unconscious mind, into the action, And as we all make progress, you will find your motivation increases and your confidence in yourself increases. So that's what I have for today. And this is one where, really, if you think of a change you want to make in your life, ask yourself, being honest, don't try and fool yourself or kid yourself, but how motivated are you? And how confident are you? Right? Because if you go, man, I'm a 9 being motivated that I want to lose the weight, but I really don't believe I can do it. So that's probably a 2, right? You get to go, okay, I got a little work to do on building my confidence, And it might be going, just where in my life do I experience confidence, right? When in a time in my life did I not believe I could do something, but then I did, And I see it with kids all the time, where they go, Pete, like, I don't think I can, ride my bike. I don't think I can invite this person over to my birthday party. I don't think I can get an A on this test. And then they do, right? Because we don't worry about the result. We go, hey, well, what if we study, right? We got an hour. Let's study. Let's go back and forth, right? And then they get that confidence and they take the test. Boom, they get a 90. They go, oh my God, this is amazing, right? Their confidence just shot up that they can do something that they didn't think they could do, right? And then you just move them up, slow and steady, right? It's not about just getting there tomorrow. It's understanding this could take 6 months, 12 months, right, to move through it. So
Nice.
that's what I've got.
That's great. I love the charts, especially the last one. It really helps just, give a visual that, there's motivation, there's confidence, and it, to be able to just see, like, what if I just had 2 and 2, or what if you have 2 and 6? You can just start to realize that it's not just one thing, ever. And, motivation is such a great thing, but, I feel in certain ways that motivation is, it's like the doer, it's the masculine, it's the, get it done. And the confidence is the love, it's the mother, it's soft. And, that can be really hard, of course, to have confidence. And sometimes people push through, things, without that love, without that confidence. I feel like it has a lot of depth actually in that word and that feeling, around what it really is, how you can cultivate it, realizing if you have it or don't have it. So, for the last few minutes, I'd love to just kind of talk about confidence, because I feel like that's something that many people could, benefit from having more of, or learning how to cultivate it.
Yeah. Confidence is one of those things we take for granted because it's something we needed to start walking. It's something we needed to start talking. It's something we needed to get on that school bus without our parents by our side. It's what we needed to learn to understand those symbols in school when we were learning to read and write. Right? It's really been with us since we were born. And for that reason, we look at moments and we go, yeah, it's just what I do, right? Of course I know how to read, but there was a time you didn't. So we end up taking a lot of our confident moments for granted. And then we go, I'm never confident. It's like, well, never is a strong word, right? Maybe you haven't felt confident in 4 or 5 years. But you know what? It takes confidence to fill out an application, to interview for a job, to hopefully get the job, right? It takes confidence to walk in on your first day, to go, I don't know anything or anyone here, but I'm going to get through this, right? We're filled with confidence. But how many of us take it for granted as if it's just an everyday thing?
Well, I think that's a really good point. And I think, another side of it is, what if you've lost your confidence? What if you once had confidence and, but life isn't working right now?
And that would be one where I love Bob Proctor for this one, is he goes, don't let your environment control how you see yourself, because the environment will always change. And that's what a lot of us do. We go, I lost my confidence because I broke my leg and I couldn't go outside for 6 months, right? I had to lose my job. All this stuff, crazy stuff happens. We can go, yeah, I lost my confidence, or we go, you know what? I'm just going to rediscover what I had before, and you get to go, even if you want to take it to the next level, is how you have confidence when everything is around you, not expressing the confidence you feel. How do you hold on to that can be super important, because that's, if you think of Tony Robbins, I think Master Your Destiny program, it's about that. It's about going, yeah, when things around you aren't going right, you still get to be that leader going, it will work out, right? So then people end up turning to you going, Pete, is it going to be okay? Yes, it will. Okay, Pete, he's confident, right? He knows it'll be okay. And the truth is, even in times where I don't know how it will work out, I know in 38 years, everything has always worked out. I may not have known how at the time, but it's always worked out. I've never been left without anything, no matter what's happened. So why would this be any different? That's for me where a lot of my confidence comes from, of going into that unknown territory, is 38 years, everything's worked out. So 39 is going to be no different. 40 will be no different, no matter what I do. And I think if we can hold on to that feeling, right, we find that it doesn't matter what goes on around us. We begin to create the world within us.
Well, I think that obviously everything that we've talked about today and that you've brought up is really important. And the thing that I have been finding over and over again with the hypnosis work that I'm learning, with clients that I have, and my own personal experiences, and my own searchings, is, building your inner world, and I'm hearing you say that too, and with Bob Proctor, it's like, we of course are beings in this material world, and of course if it's cold outside, you're going to be cold, and if the wind is bothering you, the dust is in your eyes, I mean, that's physical, that's the environment, that's real. But there is some things that we can control, which is like the resiliency inside of ourselves, the way that we deal with it, the way that we're prepared, and the way that we think.
Yeah.
The way that we have faith, or the way that we rebuild our confidence, or the ways that we interact with ideas of maintenance, action, preparation, contemplation, pre-contemplation. It's not just external coming at you. It can feel that way, but we do have access to building our internal strength, our internal resilience, our internal dialogue, and all of that.
Yeah. And I love how you said, like, when it's cold outside, of course you're cold, right? That is truth, right? But the other side of that truth is it's temporary. The cold will stop and it'll get warmer again, right? And so when we hold on to just that it's cold, we get sucked into, well, now I have to be miserable. But when you go, yes, it's cold now, I feel it, the wind's blowing, I can see my breath because it's so cold, but I also know that means spring is coming, right? They're going to get warmer, and then there's going to be new leaves and new flowers and new crops, right? We become more okay with the cold because we know what it leads to.
Right. Well, we should definitely, continue on with this topic, because I think it's, it's all connected always. Everything we talk about is all connected and relevant. And it just feels like, over and over again, to try to live your best life, especially if you're in a place of change or needing change or discomfort. We can do our very best for working with the external world, but it comes over and over and over again back to that internal working through, and resilience, and listening, and that confidence, that love, that that loving nature to help heal and help move you forward, with of course some of that more moving forward motivation. And so for people who are listening today and listening later, if visuals help you, that chart is interesting, to just look at that chart, to just and just remember that, there's different blocks of movement in different directions that, kind of build and bring you towards these different phases of your growth journey, and wherever you are, is perfectly okay, I think. And especially when you have an understanding, like this is one concept of, this is one way to conceptualize the journey. And when you see where you are, if this resonates with you, you can use it as a guide. Like, okay, yeah, I am in that pre-contemplation, and I wonder what it would take to get contemplation, right? Opposed to like, oh my God, am I in action, but I didn't even contemplate? It's a cool form that you can kind of,
Yeah.
you might also see a pattern. You might see a pattern like, wow, I've been in pre-contemplation most of my life. Or that's interesting. That makes no sense to me. I'm always in action. It's like, that's great. I wonder if a little pre-contemplation in your life, I wonder if you added some of that in, what would that do? So there's many, many ways to work with it, I think. And from,
Yeah.
and from what I'm hearing you
Yeah.
say. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any last words for today?
You know what? I think the biggest thing for today is take the time to reflect on one goal, right? Don't do a whole bunch. Just pick one goal and go on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident am I? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated? And really go, okay, so if I'm a 2 and a 4, how do I get more confidence? What do I need to do? And just listen without judgment to what comes up. Because you will find it'll come up with some pretty insightful stuff.
I love that. I'm going to write this down just as a tip. So on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident am I? And on that scale, how motivated am I? And of course, without judgment.
Yeah.
And maybe another way to think about without judgment, because I think that sometimes is a big, huge step for people, and especially the like critical mind, is with compassion and love.
Mm.
I think sometimes taking the critical judgment mind is really hard, but maybe, and sometimes people have a hard time treating themselves the way that they would treat others. So
Yeah.
if you can't treat yourself that way, maybe treat the thought or the experience that way. Maybe it's not quite you, but at least it's the process, you know? That was the last thing that kind of came to me for that.
I think that's a perfect way to say it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That seems to be the way. Love is the way, as they always say. So great. Well, thank you for everyone who listened live today. And as always, if you're listening to this later or want to reach out to either of us, you can just find us on the social media platforms that you are watching this. And until next week, go ahead and take some time to listen in. Check in on your confidence and motivation with love and
Yeah.
judgment. All right. Thank you, y'all. Ciao.